Alright, this is going to be quite a big video. We are going to be rating and grading every single Premier League team's summer transfer window. I'm going to be taking everything into consideration. So we're not just going to be looking at signings, we're also going to be looking at sales. We're going to be taking into consideration whether teams have strengthened areas they need to strengthen, whether they've replaced players they needed to replace, whether they've done enough business, whether they haven't done enough business, whether they've overspent on players, whether they've underspent on players, whether they've undersold. All of that is going to be taken into consideration. I've got a Sky Sports article here pulled up with pretty much all the sales and all the signings from every single Premier League club to make sure that I don't miss out on anyone. So let's just start this off. I mean, I'm going to be going in alphabetical order, obviously, as you can see here. So let's start off, obviously, with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal, the main focus on their window for them has been their depth. They have added so much depth and good depth, in my opinion. They've improved on the depth they used to have. And Arsenal are a squad who've had many injury problems. And we've seen that already this season. So it's already paid off. Bukayo Saka obviously getting injured against Leeds. Madueke is there now to fill in that role. And look, whether you like the signing or not, I've got my doubts about Madueke as well. The price tag is also quite hefty. But you can't lie that he has already proven why they signed him. To be that extra attacking player and an extra option as well in case there's injuries. Mosquera is going to be a big part of their season. Saliba already had an injury against Liverpool. Gabriel is also prone to an injury here and there as well. Mosquera showed that he is a very confident and able centre-back in the Premier League already. So I've got no doubts that he will adapt and be a huge player for them this season, just even if it's part of the rotation. They've obviously signed Eze and Gyökeres, who are huge players, who are going to get straight into the starting 11. So they've also strengthened their main starting lineup. Gyökeres obviously ideally will be adding goals. He's obviously had a decent start. 2 goals in 3 games is pretty good. Obviously, one being a pen and both being against Leeds. We still need to see if he can do it against a big club like Liverpool. But the jury is still out on that. Eze, for me, I've always rated that signing. Eze is, he's a player I've always rated. He's so class. We've seen it at Palace. And it was about time he got his big move. I think Hincapié as well is also a very good signing on loan there. You can't really go wrong. Christian Norgard as well. And Kepa are obviously depth. And then Zubimendi again is a player who gets into your lineup. And it's probably a replacement for the sales here of Jorginho and Partey on a free. Now, they've obviously sold quite a few players, but these are all nothing players to me anymore for Arsenal. They're all deadwood that they had to get rid of. Jorginho had to go. Tierney had to go. Tavares had to go. Marquinhos. All these guys had to go. Tomiyasu is a guy who I'm kind of sad to see go, not even as an Arsenal fan. I always rated him a little bit, but he had obviously his injury issues and all these things that eventually caught up to him. And he never really ended up having the most successful Arsenal career, which is a shame, to be honest. But look, all these guys, they're not real losses for Arsenal. Zinchenko on a loan, Nelson on a loan. They're not big players, and they have been replaced. Hincapié is coming instead of Zinchenko. You've got Mosquera coming in to cover for Kivio's loss, to be the extra centre-back in depth. So honestly, bro, I've got no real issues. The one criticism I will say and I will have about Arsenal is the fact that I don't think they've gained enough money from their sales. Look, obviously we can see here, Lokonga undisclosed. Marquinhos undisclosed. We don't really know with that. Obviously when it's undisclosed, it's hard to say. But for the amount of money they spent, it's a big risk not having made much in return through your outgoings. A lot of frees here: Jorginho, Tierney, Tomiyasu, Partey, and obviously they're players who are at the end of their contract, so there's not much you can do about it. But yeah, maybe players like Tierney and maybe players like Tierney and Tomiyasu maybe should have been sold a year earlier to avoid having to sell them on a free. But anyways, I've honestly got no problems with Arsenal except for that. And I think they've also added a few options or mandatory options to buy here for Vieira or Kivio, which range around 20 million. So that is very good for them if that gets triggered. Arsenal, honestly, I'm going to put them in A. I could even put them in S. You know what? I think I'm going to put them in S so far. Maybe we'll make tweaks. But they have honestly just strengthened everywhere. And it's an already good squad. They've added an extra centre-back of depth. They've added a substitute goalkeeper for Raya, who's Prem proven. They've added more defensive depth in Hincapié, replacing Zinchenko, who's leaving, who in my opinion is an upgrade on Zinchenko as well. They brought in Zubimendi, who replaces Partey, is a younger player than Partey as well. So obviously can be more of a player for the future as well. And obviously, they finally signed a striker in Gyökeres and also signed an Eze and Madueke. It's been a very good window from Arsenal. And it's an impressive one because we don't tend to see Arsenal being this ruthless in the transfer window. But anyways, let's move swiftly on to Aston Villa. Now, look, Aston Villa have had a bit of an interesting window. A lot of their business was done towards the end. And we were always kind of wondering, the main thing with Aston Villa was Emi Martinez staying? Was he leaving? I mean, obviously he, was looking very emotional at his last home game last season because we all kind of thought he was leaving on a free, whether it be to Man United or whatever. We all thought it was over. But it looks like he's staying now, guys. I don't really know what's going on there, but I think he stayed. So they obviously signed Marco Bisot. So I'll say that obviously as Unai Emery, if you haven't seen the interview. Marco Bisot was obviously maybe meant to be a replacement, or maybe now he's just going to be a backup keeper. I guess we won't know. But to be honest, I don't know much about these first players here that they've signed for undisclosed fees. I don't know much about Evan Gassan either. But for 28 million, I mean, you'd be hoping he makes an impact, but I don't know. The ones I'm looking at are the ones I know, and they don't really inspire me much. I mean, you've got Lindelof, who, is a Prem-proven centre-back, but at what cost? I mean, he's been in the Prem for a long time, but for one of the most, biggest declining teams, and he himself has been declining in performances ever since he joined Man United. He's had a few good performances throughout the years, but has he ever really been a top quality centre-back? Not really. I don't think he's ever even been Man United's best centre-back. I don't really know if I rate that one there. Jadon Sancho on a loan, again, I think that's maybe it's all right, to be fair. I mean, it's kind of like the Rashford loan last year. It's a Man United player who wants to leave, isn't happy with the club. Man United don't want them anymore. And again, it's a loan, so it can't really go wrong. But can Jadon Sancho provide for a club at Aston Villa? At Chelsea, yeah, he did things here and there, but I don't know if he's going to really drive Aston Villa to the next level to qualify for Europe. I think if there's a player who's going to do that, it's more Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott, for me, does add a lot of threat attacking going forward. And he's a very tenacious player. He's not the, best goal scorer or even best playmaker, but he does add a lot of quality to your front line, to even the midfield if he plays there. And again, he's very versatile. So he is a big asset to have, and he's still very young as well for a footballer. So he could have a lot of years ahead of him if they do choose to sign him on a permanent, which I think is around 30 million. And yeah, in terms of outgoings, there's not really many. I mean, there's a lot, but there's not really any significant ones. I mean, you've got players like Coutinho leaving, but no, there's no one here that stands out to me and makes me think, oh, they've lost a big one here. I think one of the things that's going to make me rate their window higher is the fact that they've kept Morgan Rogers and Ollie Watkins, who are two crucial players to them and their lineup, and they would have been very hard to replace. Leon Bailey going out on loan clearly means that he wasn't in Emery's real long-term plans or even short-term plans. Jacob Ramsey is a pretty big loss, but I don't think he's an irreplaceable player. I also don't think his performances have been improving. I think, in fact, he's probably been declining ever since he broke out in that breakthrough season. I forgot what year it was. I think it was 2022, 23, maybe around then. And for 43 million, that is a lot of money that Newcastle spent there and Aston Villa have received. So, honestly, I think they've done pretty well to get rid of a lot of Deadwood. But for now, I'm going to put Aston Villa in C because they haven't really done anything major. They haven't lost anything major. I think it's just an average window. It's not going to push them higher up the table. So we'll leave it at that. Bournemouth is a very interesting one. Look how many players they've lost, bro. They've lost pretty much their whole defence. Huijsen, Kerkez and Zabani. They made money. Don't get me wrong. They made bank. They made 150 million from just these four here. But the problem is, it's just their whole defence. Huijsen was one of the best young centre-backs in the Prem last season. There's no hiding that. That's why Real Madrid have come in for him. Kerkez was probably the best left-back in the Premier League last season, maybe bar Cucurella. And Zabani was, again, one of the best defenders in the league, or one of the, not best, but he was very highly rated. And you can see that, again, that PSG have signed him. These were crucial players to Bournemouth's core. And Iraola relied on them a lot at times. And they do play defensive football at times, especially in their home ground, where it can get quite compact and it can get quite tense. It's good to have these guys there at the back, just keeping you that clean sheet at home, which can always give you the 3 points or at least a point, or at least make it hard for the other team to score, frustrate teams. And that's what that defence did. Have they replaced it? Look, they also lost Kepa as well. Obviously, he was just a loan. So they signed Petrovic from Chelsea, who's a keeper I really rate as a Chelsea fan. They signed Ben Doak from Liverpool, who's not very proven, so you can't really judge him, but 25 million is quite hefty, so there'll be a lot of pressure on him to to develop quickly. Adli is a decent little player from Bayer Leverkusen, but 25 million is a lot again. Diakite is a very good centre-back from Lille. I think he can also play full-back. I do rate Diakite highly from what I've seen, and he is very young as well. So I think for 35 million, maybe if he does end up being like any of these guys, it'll be a success. If he ends up being like any of these guys here that they've sold, he'll be a huge success. And they've also signed Troffer, who I think is an attacker. So they haven't replaced much of their defense, but I don't know. We'll see. They obviously conceded 4 to Liverpool in the first game. I'm not really sure how the other results have gone. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they've had a pretty decent start to the season, to be honest. I don't know off by heart. Let me just check, actually. Yeah, they have. They're currently around 7th, and they've won 2 games, lost 1. Obviously, they've got players like Semenyo. They beat Tottenham as well the other day. I forgot. Yeah, they've got a good squad, and I think attacking quality-wise, they do probably have enough to stay obviously in the Premier League and maybe even compete for top half. But again, they have lost a lot. I haven't even touched on Dango Utara to Brentford, who's already, I think, scored for Brentford and proven that he's a good player in this league. That's another big loss. They haven't really spent much of this money. I guess you could say they have, but I don't know if they spent it well. I don't think they've spent it that well. I'm honestly a little bit disappointed with Bournemouth this window. I'm going to put them in D because I don't think they've strengthened enough. I still think they're a very, very good team. Semenyo, wonderful player, and he's going to definitely push them to heights this season. But I don't think they've done enough. They also sold Jadon Anthony, who's a solid player. I think he scored against United on the weekend in the 3-2 loss, or he got an assist or something like that. But he was definitely involved, and yeah, quite a few big losses here that they haven't replaced. But moving on to Brentford. Brentford, again, a bit of the same case as Bournemouth, just being stripped off of their core. And Bournemouth has gone to Man United, Norgaard's gone to Arsenal, Flecken's gone, and Johan Wissa, there we go. That's the one I was looking for. Johan Wissa has also gone to Newcastle. So they're 2 top goal scorers last year. He scored, 40 goals combined. Norgaard, one of them, was solid midfielders, and he's been at the club for the whole time in the Prem now, pretty much, since they got promoted. And Mark Flecken, who was maybe their best player last season. I mean, obviously in Bournemouth and Wissa provide that attacking X factor. But Flecken was a really solid goalkeeper, really solid pair of hands. And he frustrated a lot of clubs, including mine, last season. That's a big loss. In terms of have they replaced, I mean, obviously we mentioned Utara from Bournemouth. I think that's a decent signing. I think we'll probably have to let that play out to see if he can live up to an Mbeumo or a Wissa in terms of output. But I think Kelleher's, again, a good replacement for Flecken. Obviously, we've been knowing for a long time that this guy could definitely do it starting in the Premier League. He just needed that opportunity. Reece Nelson's a decent loan as well. Henderson on a free. Can't really go wrong. It's extra experience. I don't know if Henderson in 2025 though is really going to add to a team and push them to the next level. And I think Kayode is a decent signing. If this is the player I'm thinking of, I think he's a defender and potentially a fullback. And yeah, I haven't obviously watched him much, but I have seen good things about him. But we'll just have to see how he does. And 14 million is not too hefty either. But yeah, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far in this window, or not so far, from what I've seen this window, it's going to have to go in D. Potentially an F later. Because of the players they've lost. I don't think they've replaced them very well, like Bournemouth. And yeah, they're going to suffer because of that. Look how much attacking talent they've lost. They've lost Mbeumo, they've lost Wissa, and then, I mean, you can't really call him attacking, but Norgaard as well is outfield, I guess. I don't think they've replaced that. I mean, Utara is the only real attacker they've signed, right? Maybe Milambo, I haven't really mentioned him, but I don't really know who that is. And again, from the Dutch league is a big risk. Signing a youngster from the Dutch league, you don't really know how that's going to play out. So yeah, I'm not really impressed by Brentford's window. And that's probably why you've got a lot of people predicting them to go down this season. Or maybe not go down, but being around that zone, including myself. I predicted them to fall down quite low on the table. I haven't predicted them to go down, but I think I've got them around 15th, 14th. You can watch my prediction video if you want more clarity on that. It might even be 13th, but I just think they're going to struggle this season because of the players they've sold. And to be honest, there's not much they could do. And I think they got a good amount of money for their players. I mean, Wissa for 50 million is very good. And Mbeumo for 70 million is also a lot of money. But they just haven't reinvested it. So I can't really give them too much credit. You know what I mean? Brighton, we could say the same every year. Brighton, it's just, you just have to give the players time. Because these players you're seeing here that they've signed, you might not even hear of them this season, or they might not even start next season. But in about 3 years, one of these guys will just score a 90th minute winner against your club, and you'll be like, who is that and when did they arrive? Well, I mean, it's just the Brighton model that has worked for them so far. So we kind of just do have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Tom Watson obviously scored Sunderland's winning goal, I think it was, in the playoff final last year. Promising young talent. I don't know how to pronounce his name, Maxim de Kuiper maybe. He's a solid defender, played against City, I think he was decent there. But again, these players, I don't really know much of them, so we're just going to have to let them play out, and it'll probably be long term. But again, out. I mean, look at the sales. I mean, Adingra 20 million, Pedro 60 million. They're the best at this. They're the 70 million for Stupinian. They're the best at flipping these young talents for profit, and the model's kept working. But again, they have lost a lot. They've also started the season off decently. I mean, they only got their first win, I think, against Man City. But, I mean, they're not going to go down. They've sold, again, Enciso as well, Lamptey, O'Reilly on a loan, Buonanotte to Chelsea on a loan. They've sold a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to put Brighton in C, though, just purely because we just have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Right now, if that was any other club, I'd be potentially putting them in F. You've lost João Pedro, your star man, star striker last season. Sold Adingra, who's attacking talent. Buonanotte to Chelsea on loan. I mean, he could have definitely contributed. And Enciso as well. Lost a lot of players, and they've not really signed anyone to replace them, except for the guys I showed you that will probably be making their way slowly but surely. So that's the thing. We could be reviewing this in a few years' time and be calling it an A-tier window because of these players. Now, I know that's kind of playing the guessing game, but I genuinely think we kind of have to take that into account here. So I'm going to put Brighton in C there. But moving on to Burnley. Let's talk about Burnley. Burnley, obviously, are favourites to go down. Let's be honest. There's no hiding it. They got promoted. They obviously... I don't think they won the championship in the end, but they conceded only 16 goals in the championship, which is crazy. They made some decent signings. I mean, Kyle Walker can't really go wrong. Adds experience, low fee. But is he, again, going to take you to the next level? Not in 2025. Kyle Walker in 2018, 19? Definitely. But look, for Burnley, he can do a job, I think, still. Jane Anthony, I think, is a very good signing from Bournemouth. Very cheap as well. Bashir Humphries from Chelsea, I think he was there on loan last year. So it's, again, good to keep some of that core that got you up to still have that, momentum with you. Marcus Edwards, I still haven't seen much from him, but I think that's a decent signing. Twanzebe on a free, obviously, was just relegated with Ipswich, but he's got Prem experience. Brun Larson, I think, is a very good signing. He was obviously there a few years ago. Ugochukwu, who I rate really highly from Chelsea. Obviously, never really managed to break into the lineup, but I think he can do very well for them. He was good against United as well. Dubravka was very good against United as well, and he's going to start for them because they sold Trafford. So I think for a starting keeper right now, I wouldn't have told you before he signed that was a very good signing. But I think now, if you're just trying to stay up 1 year, I think he can still do a job for you in the Prem. Broja, we're yet to see, but Broja in the last few years has not been the Broja we thought he could become, let's be honest. He's had injuries, he's not been scoring goals, he's not even been getting to the lineups for the team he goes on loan to. So it's been a tough one for Broja, and I feel bad because I love the guy, but yeah, hopefully it goes well. But I don't know if 20 million for Broja is the best way you can spend 20 million. And then obviously they've sold James Trafford, their keeper. But apart from that, they've managed to keep on to a lot of first-team players. I mean, obviously I don't know the Burnley starting 11 off by heart. They released Josh Brownhill, who was one of the best players in the championship last year or just a few years ago. So that's a bit weird, but I think there's been a bit of an issue with contracts there. But apart from that, honestly, I think this is a very positive window from Burnley. I don't know if it's enough to stay in the league, but I'm going to put it in B, maybe even A later. I don't think there's been a star signing. I think Ugochukwu could be that. Maybe even a Brun Larson or a Jaden Anthony, but the jury is still out there. But honestly, I think it's been a good window from Burnley. Chelsea, obviously my club, I might be a bit biased here. I think we've had a decent window. Obviously, I'm not going to be saying it's been perfect or flaw-free. I'm not going to go through all these players. You already know all about them. We've already been talking about them for a long time. I'm just going to say I think we've done well to add attacking depth and options, defensive as well. And obviously you've got the young players here that go on loan and hopefully will be integrated in the team in the future. Garnacho, obviously. And here, obviously, you can just see a bunch of loans, a bunch of sales. I think, honestly, overall, Chelsea this window, I'm not going to focus much on what we bought. Because what we bought, I think, is solid. It's not going to win us the title. A João Pedro is definitely taking us in the right direction. But I don't think it's going to win us the title yet. I think what we've done here is very smart. We've spent a lot investing in the future and the present, whilst also not, working at a huge loss. The amount we've sold is insane. Just look at this: 25 million, 10 million, 5 million. It's not even we've sold 2 players for 100 million. We've sold Madueke for 50, Joao Felix for 40, Samuel Smith, which that situation is so weird because he's come back now, so I don't know what's going on there. But Dewsbury Hall 30 million, Ugochukwu 20, Broja 20, Renato Vega 26, Chukwuemeka 24. You could look at it for yourself. It's been impressive, and I think we're the first club to ever garner over 300 million euros or pounds, whatever it is, in a single transfer window from sales. So honestly, the media might tell you how much we spend, but honestly, you guys should also appreciate how much we sell. And purely for that, I'm going to be giving us a B, just above Burnley, I'd say. Because again, I think we still have some issues that we haven't addressed. Keeper, that is an issue for many people. I'm still not sure with Robert Sanchez. A centre-back would have probably been ideal considering what happened to Colwell. But it's been positive from the owners, especially in the sales department. Crystal Palace, honestly, I think I've had a bit of a stinker. I'm not going to lie to you. Losing Eze was kind of inevitable. They haven't really lost anyone else. But what they have done, I'm not really going to focus on who they signed because, Pino's a great player from Villarreal, but that's pretty much the only major signing they made. The rest is, I guess, good depth. Maybe Uche could get in there from Getafe. He's a good player. But honestly, they've rocked a bit the dressing room a lot. Glasner is, now obviously he's kept Gay for one more year, but is he going to stay past that? Because Gay is going to leave now as soon as his contract leaves. He's probably not happy with the situation at all. He's probably not mad at Glasner, but he's probably mad at the club, let's be honest. He definitely is. So they could potentially be losing Gay and Glasner at the end of next year if something goes wrong this season. And I think that's because the board did not sell Gay early enough. You had to sell Gay early on in the window when we knew that Liverpool wanted him. We knew that Gay wanted to go. Sell him for 35 million. Even if you think that's cheap. Allow Glasner some time to decide on his replacement. If you're not allowing your manager to decide on a replacement and you're selling him on deadline day, that's an issue. I'm going to put Palace in D for that. It seems a little bit harsh because these two clubs have sold a lot more and they have kept Gay. So I'll put them in C just for keeping Gay because we don't know if Glasner does end up staying or leaving next year. But I think this could eventually have major ramifications for them in future seasons. Moving on to Everton, they made the Carlos Alcaraz loan permanent. They signed this Barry guy from Villarreal, who I had never heard of, even though I do follow the Liga quite a lot, for 27 million, which is a lot. He has to do well. He has to do well, but for that amount of fee, you'd expect him to do well pretty instantly, but I haven't really heard much. I don't even know if he started yet, but might have. Everton fans, let me know in the comments. Travers and Asnu are decent pickups. Dewsbury Hall, I think, is very good. I think they might have slightly overpaid from Chelsea, but I'm not complaining as a Chelsea fan. But that's a good signing. We've already seen he got like an assist and a goal against Wolves, and it was a very good goal. He's going to be very good for them. I've always rated him a lot. I don't think he can start for Chelsea, but for an Everton, he can definitely be a key player. Grealish is an unbelievable signing on loan. An unbelievable signing. That guy is hungry, and we've already seen that from his numbers already at the club in the first few games. Tyler Dibbling, obviously a very exciting young player. We need to see more of him. 42 million is a lot, which means they trust him, but we're just going to have to see if that trust is repaid. But again, I do believe in his talent, so I do think that's a good signing. And look, sales, honestly, they haven't sold anyone, that major. And obviously, they haven't made much money either from what we can see here, which is a bit of an issue, but they haven't spent too much either. They haven't spent Dibbling 40 million, but apart from that, Barry, they have spent quite a bit, but it's kind of, I'd say, average for this season for a Premier League club, maybe even slightly below. So honestly, I don't mind these sales. It's a lot of deadwood. I didn't even know that Begovic was still there. I didn't even know that Holgate was still there. Young, Calvert-Lewin, these guys had to go. Yeah, Everton have had a decent one, man. I think I'm going to put them in B. That Jack Grealish loan is going to do huge bits for them. Jack Grealish on loan is a great signing. Moving on to Fulham. Literally not much at all to see here. And in fact, Fulham were looking like they were going to make no signings until deadline day. It literally took them until deadline day to get their act together. I think the only player they'd signed was maybe this Lecomte guy. I think he's a keeper. And maybe this guy, I don't even know. But before deadline day, it was a shambles. Deadline day, they got their act together. They signed Kevin from Shakhtar, who honestly I don't know much about, but must be a decent player for 34 million. Chukwueze on loan, which I think is a very good signing, adding attacking depth and a pretty proven player. It was decent for Villarreal. Obviously at Milan, maybe he's fallen out of favour a little bit. I think Tyreek George, obviously, we got the here we go that he was going to go to Fulham. Then that deal ended up collapsing, but I think that would have been a very good signing for Fulham. He scored against Fulham last year for his first Premier League goal, maybe that's why. But yeah, I think he's a bright player with a bright future ahead of him, honestly. I was sad that we sold him. I don't really see a path into our first team, that's the thing. That's why I don't really mind selling him for his sake. But that would have been a good signing. Apparently, I think Chelsea might have blocked the move at the end because I don't even know. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, that's a big miss for them. But I think, again, they just haven't done enough. The players they have signed, sure, will do something, but I don't think they're going to be pushing for top half or anywhere near that this season. But it's Fulham. I don't think they'll get relegated. They've already established themselves as a Premier League club. Players they've sold, Pereira might be a bit of a loss, but honestly, he wasn't going to be contributing a lot. Neither was Vinicius. Willian was obviously getting older. And yeah, none of these guys were really going to make a difference. So Fulham, I'm going to be putting them in C. Just a bit of an average window, a bit like these clubs. Actually, honestly, no, I'm going to put them in D. I'm going to put them in D because although it's average, they haven't sold anyone major and they haven't bought anyone major. That's not enough in the Prem these days. You want to be improving every single year because the Prem is improving at such a rapid rate that you can't afford to fall behind. And is this enough? I don't think so. I don't think it's enough. But we'll see. Hopefully the Kevin guy can be good. Honestly, players from Shakhtar that are Brazilian. I think he's Brazilian. I assume he's Brazilian because there's a lot of Brazilian players who play for Shakhtar. You have these names like Kevin, Fred. There's always something about them. Tayson, Bernard. You just kind of want them to do well, but they haven't always tended to. Anyways, we'll see. Moving on to Leeds. Leeds, obviously, again, another promoted club who are a lot of people's favourites to go down. They've started very well, though. 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss, I think it is, and their loss was to Arsenal. They've started off promisingly. And, I mean, a lot of it is due to the signings. And Metro scored the penalty that won them their first game against Everton. Goodmanson's a decent signing from Lille. Longstaff from Newcastle doesn't move me that much, but he's Prem proven. Calvert-Lewin doesn't move me that much. He had a stinker of a debut in the Carabao Cup. But he's experienced and he can add attacking depth. As a backup striker, Okafor, I like that signing from AC Milan. Obviously, he was one of the wonder kids a few years ago. Maybe hasn't worked out in the top echelon of players now. He hasn't really reached that level, but I think he can do really good things for Leeds. And yeah, he's a bright player. And James Justin, obviously a lot of injury issues. At one point was one of the brightest fullbacks in the league. And a lot of people were tipping him to be a future starter for England. I think he can do very good things for Leeds if he stays fit. And he's still not too old. In fact, I think he's still quite young, around 25, maybe 26, maybe even 27. Bornell, I think this is a centre-back, but honestly, I don't know much about the rest of these guys. But they made some decent signings. No real, unlike Burnley, though. Burnley have signed some big statements. I don't think Leeds have really made a statement, unless you want to call it Metro a statement on a free. I don't think they made any statement signings. Okafor is probably the closest to that. But nothing here gives me really the thought or the idea that they might stay up. And it doesn't really change my initial prediction of where they ended up. So I'm going to put them again in C. Again in C. That might be a little harsh. I just don't think they've had as good a window as a Burnley. So I'm going to put them in C. There's a lot of teams in C now, so I might be having to start moving. Maybe some of these guys have to go down in F for these guys to go down in D. Honestly, these lot have had stinker windows. But we'll come back to that. Now we're getting into the big guns. We've got Liverpool next. Now, do I even need to talk? Do I even need to talk? This is going straight in S and put them at the top of S. I don't even... Look, I'm going to be very quick on this because this video is going to end up lasting ages if I spend all my time in it. They've signed the best striker in the Premier last season. He was better than Haaland. I don't care what you say. They've signed the best player in the Bundesliga. Maybe bar Bayern. Just ignore Bayern. They've signed the best player in the Bundesliga. They signed the best right back in the Bundesliga. They signed, in my opinion, I've watched him a lot, top 3 goalkeepers in La Liga to be their backup keeper. They've signed, like I said before, one of the best, if not the best, left back in the Premier League last season. And Ekitike, look, I don't know what to call him, but he's one of the brightest strikers in Europe right now. And he started his Liverpool career off very well. Leone, I mean, again, I don't know much about him, but the way a lot of Serie A fans talk about him, he's one of the brightest talents in Serie A, or he was until he signed for Liverpool. They have had an incredible window, but we cannot ignore how they've sold as well. Nunez for 50 million in 2025 is crazy. Trent obviously is a big loss, but they've replaced him with Frimpong well. Kelleher for 18 million is huge considering they signed Mamadashvili. Kwanzaa for 35 million is a big sale. So is Luis Diaz for 65 million. This is insane levels of negotiation from Liverpool. Honestly, big respect to Liverpool, man. They have negotiated this incredibly. Tyler Morton for 15 million. Ben Doak for 25 million to Bournemouth, like we mentioned earlier. Insane business. Manchester City. Now, Manchester City have had a stink of a start to the season. 3 games, 3 points, 1 win. It's not ideal considering they've had this window, which in my opinion is a very good one. It's a very good one. They've lost a De Bruyne who was aging and getting more and more injuries and wasn't going to contribute as much. They've sold Edison, who was unhappy with game time, or Pep was unhappy as well. And again, he was also starting to get a little bit dry. They've sold a Kanji on loan. Kuto, 25 million is a big sale. But again, apart from that, no real major first-team players at all, to be honest, except for maybe De Bruyne and Edison. Reinders, honestly, from what I've seen, this guy, class. Obviously, he hasn't really replicated the performance he had against Wolves in any of the other Premier League games. But I've got no doubt that this guy, he doesn't have to be putting in 10 out of 10s every week. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be such a reliable presence in the midfield for Man City. He's going to be huge to their success. I know he's a decent player as well. I have my criticisms of him. I don't really understand the signing completely, but hey, he's going to contribute and he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. Cherki, obviously we know Cherki's been injured now, unfortunately, for a few months, but he has just been injured, so he's going to be out for the next few months. So that's a shame. But again, such a young player with such a bright future. He will be incredible for Man City. Naipan as well, has just gone out on loan. But again, for those of you that play Football Manager will know this guy's an absolute icon. James Trafford is a good signing. And Donnarumma is an even better signing. They're going to have a bit of a problem here. Because both of these guys are going to want to start. Trafford and Donnarumma. They both signed thinking they're going to start. But it's a good problem because these are both top quality keepers. But Donnarumma especially, bro. For just 26 million... I think the guy is still, 27, 28, maybe 29? Insane. That guy's been around for like 20 years, it seems. And again, they haven't really sold anyone huge. Now, Man United, obviously... Oh, I haven't even rated Man City. Let me go back. Man City, honestly, could be an A. I think they're going to be an A. Man City have had a very good window. I'm not going to let these first 3 results taint my opinion too much. They've had a very good window so far, don't get me wrong. Man United, not so much, let's be honest. I mean, they have addressed a few issues, the attack. They signed a striker, finally, Benjamin Sesko. And they also sold, Højlund on loan. I think there's an either mandatory option to buy. Anthony, obviously, finally getting him off their books. Rashford loaned out. Sancho loaned out. Garnacho gone for 40 million. That's decent. And obviously, they brought in Brian and Mbeumo and Cunha, who were 2 of the most on-fire players last season in terms of scoring and output for their clubs. And Mbeumo got 20 goals. Cunha, I think, like 15, 16. But honestly, these guys have already shown what they're going to do for Man United. Even if they haven't scored each game or they haven't assisted each game, their presence and the chances that they create and the momentum and all these things they create for United that they were lacking in the previous seasons has already been evident. The guy I'm a bit more worried about now is Sesko. Is Sesko going to live up to that 70 million that I'm looking at? It's too early to tell. But from what we have seen, he has been a bit frustrating. Going 10th in the penalty shootout was obviously weird. I'm not going to read too deep into that. Against Grimsby, obviously, we've all been talking about that. But it doesn't seem like he asserts himself. He hasn't started in the Premier yet, though. That's a bit of a problem as well. But when he does get game time, in his cameos, it doesn't seem like he asserts himself. He's a big guy. And he doesn't make himself feel like a big guy when you're watching him. That's my issue with him. But honestly, I've barely seen anything of him on the ball. It's all just him being in the box. And if they manage to get the crosses right, I have no doubt that he can score goals and will score goals. So I do still rate that signing. And Sesko's the player I do rate a lot. So don't get me wrong on that. And Lamans, obviously, I don't know much about him at all, but they needed a keeper. And let's be honest, he cannot be worse than Onana or Bayern at this point. So that is a good signing. But honestly, bro, it's not enough. No midfielder, You could have even said they should have signed a fullback or a wing-back if that's what Amorim wants to play. Because Luke Shaw, still keeping Luke Shaw at your club in 2025, man, it's crazy. No, bro, this has not been a window for me. It's not been a bad one, though. They have signed some very good players, but the issues they have are still so prevalent. I don't think that I can put them in B alongside these clubs because these guys have had decent windows. So I think I'm going to have to put them into C. I'll put them at the top, though, because the players they've signed have been class. But it's C bordering B. And in fact, I'm going to be moving these two down to F. Actually, I'll keep Fulham there because they haven't really done anything. I'll move these all down to F. And Villa can come down to D. Yeah, I think I'm liking that a little bit. All right. Moving on to Newcastle. Oh my God, this run of teams is going to have me sweating. Wow, I'm going to have to be talking a lot here. Newcastle, oh my God, where do we begin this window? In fact, let me just start this off. Am I going to put them in F? I think I have to. I think I just have to put them in F. I mean, this has been such a crazy and eventful window for Newcastle in whatever bad way you want to interpret it. From going for João Pedro, rejected. Delap, rejected. Shesko, I think they probably went for, rejected. Ekatike, they went for, rejected. Who else did they go for? Trafford, rejected. There's more. There's definitely more that I'm just forgetting. Everyone has rejected them. And that has forced them to end up spending 70 million on Voltemade and 55 million on Wissa. Wissa, who is proven, but he's also 29. And Voltemade, who is young, but unproven. He's had one season where he's done decently in the Bundesliga. Do Bundesliga players always translate the best, especially in that striker position, to the Prem? Hey, I haven't seen it. So, I haven't seen it. That's what I'm going to say. As a Chelsea fan, I haven't seen it. Your Kai Havertz, your Werners, your Nkunkus, all these guys. Look, that bias is definitely coming in it. But as a Newcastle fan, I would not be happy with this window. I think Elanga's a good signing, but 55 million is a lot again for Elanga. Malik Thiel, I don't know much about. I think Ramsdale was a bit of a panic buy for a keeper as well. Oh, it's been a mess. And don't be fooled by these figures. Jacob Ramsey's for 43 million. Do not be fooled by these numbers. Because numbers doesn't necessarily mean the higher the fee, the better the player. Not at all. Honestly, I don't know, bro. I think Newcastle will still get into Europe. I think Conference League, Europa League maybe. But Champions League, especially they're having to play Champions League football as well, they're going to struggle, bro. And I think they'll still do decently. It's Newcastle. But, I mean, they've got a great manager. But, bro, let's not look past the fact that they've lost Alexander Isak. Like, come on, what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing here? They've lost Alexander Isak. This guy won them the Carabao Cup. Look, honestly, I'm going to stop talking. Because if I keep talking, Newcastle fans are going to honestly crucify me. And honestly, I don't hate Newcastle at all. Don't get me wrong. Please don't take offense. Let me know why you think I'm incorrect. But this guy was so huge to you lot. As much as you lot want to downplay that. And look, I'm also not a fan of how he's gone about his way. But we can't deny his impact. I'll put them top of F because at least they've signed players. In fact, you know what? I'll put them in D. But it's a bit out of pity, I'm not going to lie. It's been a mess of a window for Newcastle. It really has. Nottingham Forest now. Nottingham Forest obviously always like to make a lot of signings for some reason. I remember the year they came up, I think they signed about 40 players. And it's just a lot of nothing, to be honest. I mean, you see all the guys from Brazil. Obviously, there's a bit of a conspiracy theory around that with Botafogo. You got Ndoye, don't know much about. Hutchinson's a good signing, I will give him that. 37 million is a lot of money from a player who just got relegated with about, 2 goals in the Prem. But no, he's still a player with a long future ahead of him and a lot of potential. Same with McAtee as well from Man City. Kalimuendo from Rennes, also a young player, attacking talent. So they've signed decently. I don't know much about this Bakwa guy from Strasbourg. Douglas Luiz is a very good signing. Prem proven. Not just Prem proven. At one point, he was one of the best midfielders, or maybe defensively minded midfielders in the Prem. He can play box to box. The guy's a very good player to have in the middle of the park. That's a good signing. Zinchenko as well, Prem proven. A lot of good things here. There's a lot here. So it's not all good, but there's a lot of good things here. And a lot of things that I just don't know enough about to comment on. And honestly, I don't see a lot of money being spent on a real, questionable player, except for maybe this Bakwa guy. But we'll see. Dylan Bakwa, 37 million, 34 million is interesting. But again, obviously, they sold Elanga. That's a big loss. Maybe Hutchinson's the replacement. maybe Kalimuendo. But yeah, that's a big loss. Elanga obviously built a big bond with a lot of players in the club, and he was a fan favourite. But he's gone to Newcastle, and he's one of the only players we said to go to Newcastle. So we'll give him that. Honestly, I'm not helping myself with the Newcastle fans. They honestly deserve it if they give me abuse here. Anyways, let's just move on quickly. Where am I going to put Nottingham Forest? This video is getting very long. Hopefully you lot are still watching and enjoying. If you are, comment down below which club you think won the transfer window. Nottingham Forest, let's put them in B. Yeah, I'm going to be kind of put them in B. They also kept Morgan Gibbs-White, which, you know, the ethics of that are still, you know, to be questioned. We've got no evidence to know that it was unethical, but yeah, something happened there. Something might have happened. No. I'm not going to be conclusive. Don't sue me, Marinakis. Something might have happened there, but it's a big thing to keep your best player, Morgan Gibbs-White. So that's good. Moving on to Sunderland, the last newly promoted side, and these lot, I mean, obviously have had the best window out of any promoted side, and I think it's showing. They've got, what, 2 wins in 3 games against Brentford and against West Ham. And in fact, the only loss was against Burnley, another promoted team, which is strange. But, I mean, Xhaka is not only an experienced player and Prem proven, but I think he's still got a lot to offer, unlike maybe Henderson to Brentford. I think this guy still has something to prove in the Prem. Adingra, slightly, I mean, Prem proven again. I mean, he's had successes for Brighton, good performances for Brighton, and he's a bright talent. Can put in a ball, I'll tell you that. And he can even, you know, has an eye for goal as well. So he can even get you a goal. Diarra from Strasbourg has already been a main staple in the squad, is such a talented player, such a good player to have in your midfield. Lefay as well, on a permanent. They had him on loan last season. Like I said with the Bashir Humphreys at Burnley, it's good to keep some of that core that got you up. And the rest of these guys, look, I don't know much about. I mean, to be fair, Reynaldo is a good signing. Again, a player who goes straight into the lineup, who's proven. Talby, centre-back from Bruges. Gui obviously has gone back, although I thought that was a very good loan, and I think he could have done very well for them. And then all this is kind of just depth. Brobby is the replacement for Gui, who left from Ajax, 21 million. That's quite a lot, but he's a good player. Mukiet, bro, they've had a very good window here. They've signed a lot of players, but they've signed a lot of players who are really going to benefit the side. And for a promoted club, it's very easy to look at their signings and kind of get overly gassed because you kind of overrate each player because obviously you've got low expectations for the club. But honestly here, I think they spent very wisely. They haven't overspent on anyone as well. That's the crazy part. From what I can think of, the highest one is 30 million for Diarra, which in my opinion is totally worth it for a player that young. Obviously they lost Joe Bellingham, but that's honestly the only major loss. Maybe Tommy Watson as well. But honestly, what a window from them. I'm not going to quite put them in S, but I'm going to put them in A. Definitely. And I think this has honestly put them from being the favourites to go down to the favourites out of the 3 promoted to stay up. So very positive thing. Very positive signs from Sunderland. Tottenham, Spurs have had a good window. I'm not going to lie to you. It hurts to say as a Chelsea fan, but they've had a good window. They stole our chain. I'm not going to lie. They took our chain. They took Xavi Simons away from us. And, you know, it's always a Chelsea trick to take players away from Tottenham, like Willian. We know this. But Xavi Simons has decided to play Una reverse card on us and do the opposite, which hurts because I wanted this guy. And for 51 million, bro, I'm looking at it, it wasn't even that much money. Just pay for it, man. Todd Bowley, you like money. You like spending money. Spend it on Xavi Simons. Anyways, it's too late for that now. The signings they made are good. Danso on a permanent, Tell on a permanent. Good players, obviously. Kudus, huge talent. Had an off-season at West Ham. Hopefully he doesn't carry that form into Tottenham. He's had a decent start. Was very good against City, but we have to see him be consistent now for that fee as well. Xavi Simons is going to be huge. I've got no doubt about it. And Kolo Muani on loan is a very good signing again. Very good stuff here. To get 20 million for Son as well, to get 17 million for Højbjerg, yeah, it's decent. And I think loaning out Mikey Moore is also good for his development. Yeah, honestly, I've got no issues here. And I've only got good things to say. I'm going to put Tottenham in 8. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to quite put them in S because I don't think they've done enough to I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they've had a good enough window like an Arsenal or Liverpool. That's all I can say. I don't know. I mean, I after City, I said, you know, maybe they could push for the title. Maybe they could get the momentum to make an early title charge like they do a lot. Obviously, the loss to Bournemouth set that back a little bit. And now looking back at it, I still do think there's a few holes there that they haven't covered. Again, a player who I haven't mentioned is Paulinho on loan, which is another very good signing, who Again, you don't lose anything from just loaning in a Prem-proven player in midfield. Yeah, so good stuff from Tottenham. Very good stuff from Tottenham, and they definitely won't finish 17th again. Definitely not. Much better window than United. I'll give Levy some credit. Now we go to West Ham, who honestly were having an absolute stink of a window again until the deadline. Even the deadline didn't really save them that much. They got Igor Julio on loan from Brighton, who was looking like he was going to go to Palace, ended up going to West Ham. And Matheus Fernandes, who in his debut looked very, very good. Now, I don't know much about Magassa. I don't know much about Diouf. But what we have seen from Diouf, he's been very good. He got, what, 2 assists already? No, he's been good, I can't lie. And I think he is going to be very, very good for West Ham. He's like he can play wing back, he can play fullback. He's just a player who bombs down the wing. And that's kind of what you love to see. A touchline winger who can whip a ball in. I mean, you've got your Callum Wilsons there in the box ready. He's a decent new signing, to be honest. You will get goals. And they've kept Paqueta, which is huge. Obviously, they lost Kudus, but keeping Paqueta was a must. And they've done that. So it's honestly not as bad as people say. Hermanson is a questionable signing. We've seen that already. He's had some issues, and even Areola might have to just go back in goal, which is not ideal considering you signed Hermanson to challenge him and replace him. But Fernandes looks like he could be the real deal, potentially even not a Kudus replacement because they're different sort of players, but he can maybe match Kudus' impact and influence on the team for sure. And they have made quite a few sales, to be fair, which has made their team very short of depth. But no, it's been a positive window from West Ham. Overall, I would say. Still not amazing. I don't even know if I put them in B, but I think I put them top of C. I think I do. They've kept their best players, except for Kudus, obviously, and they've signed some very good talent. Anyways, let's see Wolves now. This is the last team, I think, isn't it? Yeah, last team. This has honestly not been as long as I thought it was going to be at one point. I hope you lot are still watching and have enjoyed, because it's been a very fun video to make. And I'm learning a lot about these clubs as well. I'm learning players that I didn't even know had been sold or signed. But Wolves, honestly, have had a bit of a stinker. I'm not going to lie to you. They've had a bit of a stinker. I think, honestly, they might go down now. I predicted in my predictions Wolves to finish 16th and West Ham to be the club that gets relegated from the non-promoted sides. Right now, with a bit of hindsight, seeing what West Ham did to Nottingham Forest and Matheus Fernandes and all this stuff, I think I might switch the two. Wolves have had a bad start, man. A bad start. Have they lost all their games? I think they might have lost all their games. It's been a stinker of a start for Wolves, man. A really bad start. I mean, look at the players they sold. Semedo, I mean, he was a starter consistently for them, but he was a big player. They've just released him. I don't know why. Nori, they've sold another fullback. Cunha, obviously their best player. And who have they signed? Fer Lopez for 20 million. Sean Larson's a good player, but he was already there last season, wasn't he? That's just making it permanent. So you're not really strengthening your squad. I think he was already there. And the rest of these guys, bro, they just don't motivate me. They don't move me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know them, so that's bias obviously come into play. So feel free, if you know these players or if you've watched them and they perform well, let me know, Wolves fans. I'm not trying to be blatantly criticizing something I don't know, but I can't help but look at this and just not be inspired enough. And I think you lot could very well go down because of this window. I think I'm going to put it in... I'm going to put it in F as well, because I think these two clubs, Brighton and Bournemouth, have a good enough squad as it is to stay up and be comfortable. I don't think you guys have. I'm sorry, I just don't see it with losing Cunha, losing Nori. Who's there? It's not like West Ham, who have a Jared Bowen, they've got a Paqueta. Who have Wolves got? Off the top of my head, I genuinely can't think of a top player that Wolves have. But anyways, let me know if I'm wrong. And let me know what you think of my ranking. Here it is. You can see it. I don't think I'm going to make many changes. I think I'm quite happy with that. As you can see, it's pretty good. You've got a pretty even out ranking. You've got 3 here, 3, 4, 2 at the top, and then you've got quite a big C, which is what you expect, because that's like the average. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Have I been too harsh on your club? Have I been too kind? Honestly, I like all the debate. Comment down below, like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in a bit.